Hey guys, Troy here with a continuation on a theme. The last time we were together, I shared with you the Waterman Aerometric filler pen that I have that was right here. It was my second one. I got this one from AndersonPens.com, and that's the writing sample that came from that. And you know, it's a right nice pen. It's a great writer from the 1950s, and I tend to like Waterman pens. Well, I've been collecting Waterman cartridge fillers, or Waterman CFs, for quite some time now, and I've got a bunch of them. I got them in various colors. You know, I've got, quite honestly, they come sometimes in different shapes, different styles, different body styles. Like you can tell here, some of my CFs have got the flat bottom on the body, whereas this one's more rounded, and you can tell a difference in the clip style. You got the bifurcated clip here compared to this, and then you've got this one right here that I've picked up, which is probably my favorite Waterman CF. I've got other ones here in black and gold, but anyway, these are some of my Waterman CFs. The Waterman CC is what this one is, and the Waterman CC is very, very similar. Now, the big deal is it's a school version of Waterman's early cartridge pens, like the CF. So, basically, this one was made more cheaply and was made in conjunction with BIC. You know, BIC ballpoint pens, you know, the BIC pen company. So they called this the Waterman-Bic 298, from what I can gather with some of the reading that I've done. And then functionally, in most ways, construction-wise, it's very similar to a Waterman CF. But I tell you what, it doesn't necessarily look or feel like one in some ways. You can tell that the bottom here, or the barrel, is definitely similar to this particular CF. You can tell that the cap is more like that, which is the aerometric filler that I've got. It's not as ornate, doesn't have the Waterman logo on it, kind of thing. And you can see functionally, though, it's very similar. And you slip the cap off, and you've got a nib, a steel nib like that, and an expensive nib. And you can see they're actually fairly similar. But are they really similar? Well, yes. Construction's a little different, though. 1953 to 1960 or so, these retail for just under $3. So it was aimed at the student market, the lower end, trying to get people into it. So, but you know, this particular one I paid $18 for, delivered to my door. So I thought that was a pretty good price. I was able to snatch it up from a seller on Etsy, etsy.com, and for 18 bucks, I figured, what the heck, I'll go ahead and get it. This one, having been used from the 1950s, did have a couple of problems. I went ahead and inked it up. It did not come with a cartridge. Now, just so you'll know, the CC, much like the CF, will either take a cartridge or it will take a converter. Converters can be purchased aftermarket, but they're a little expensive, $25 and up. I've seen them as high as 50, 40, 50 bucks. All right, so this one is the only one that has the converter, and it's kind of an aerometric style converter that goes into those. But this is what their proprietary cartridges are like, and I've got a bunch of them. As you can see, I had several boxes of them that I just put into one of these sliding plastic drawers here. And these, because they're old, most of the ink has already evaporated out of these. So what I did was I went ahead and put it in the pen, punctured the end, and I took a blunt tip syringe, and all I did was just put water into it. This is what a blunt tip syringe looks like, in case you're wondering. And basically you suck up ink, and you can see I still have to clean out the syringe. I set the syringe aside, and I haven't really done anything with it, and I'm going to be careful about it because I don't want to squirt any ink that may be in it. But it's got this needle that I stuck into the puncture, and I kept flushing it out with water, and then I even flushed it out some with some pen flush until I couldn't flush anymore. So I'm going to set that aside. So this is what I ended up with. It's got that long, slender grip. If you like that, it's plastic. It's or polystyrene, I think, technically, from what I've read. And it's got a steel nib to it, a nothing special steel nib. You unscrew, and you can see there is the ink. And there we go. Like I said, I flushed it out and I put in my own ink. And I think I put into this one like Monteverde Midnight Black or something like that. And this is all plastic in here, around here. Whereas you look at some of the others, I'm going to set this down real quick. Like this one, you pull it off and you can see it's all metal on a CF. Because this is a little higher end. Not the top of the line. This one, you pull it off, nicer, it's metal, whereas that one's plastic. The same thing, I mean, looking at their cheaper one, you pull this off, and this is more of a CC than a CF, probably, but just because of the construction of it, and it's not, but this one does have the Waterman on it, so this one is not like the BIC manufacturer. Alright, so it's got the ink cartridge in it. You can still see the ink sloshing around in it because I did fill it up pretty good. And it's got plastic rounded and the thing is, on this particular one, it was suggested that you could eyedropper this if you wanted to. Number one, I wouldn't want to because it's white. I'm not going to eyedropper a white barrel. But second, there is a tiny little hole on this that I don't see on any of my other CFs, even with the same rounded end of the barrel. This one here actually has a little hole, and if you tried to eyedropper this, you get ink everywhere. So, not about to do that. So, screw that back on. And, you've got the same typical length of the Waterman CF, and it's nice and easy to hold. It's very lightweight. You cap it or you post it, it's not going to be light. It's not going to be heavy at all. So whether you post it on the end and you carry it around, it is a slip top. It is not does not snap shut, but it does friction fit fairly well. I've been using this pen the past several days. Now, when I first got it, I had to do a good amount of cleaning. I actually inked it up, started to use it. It took a little while to get ink to flow out of it. I thought that this, considering the seller had said that they thought it was clean and ready to use. No, it wasn't. So it started giving me a hard time writing, a hard time starting. So I said, all right, that's not very good. The other thing is I did a little bit of smoothing on this particular nib because it was just a tiny bit on the scratchy side. So I took out my micro mesh and a little bit of the high grit sandpaper that I use, and I was able to smooth this a little bit so it does write better. And in addition to that, I put it into my, after giving it a good flushing with a bulb syringe, I put it in my ultrasonic cleaner, and a lot of blue ink started to come out of it. So it told me, yep, sure enough, no one cleaned it as well as it was claimed. So I got that ultrasonically cleaned, all the blue ink that had been there. Who knows how long that blue ink had been in this particular pen. So I was able to clean all that out, flush it out really well, and then get it writing again. And once all the water had finally gotten out of the section and it started to flow ink, it actually started to flow very nicely, and I have a pretty good writing pen. So let's go ahead and now that I've played with this a little while and left the cap off from it, let's see how well we write. So this was a Waterman C, and this is a cartridge pen. You know, it would probably help if I could actually spell. And this has a very fine nib. It is a student pen aimed at the lower end of the market. So it's not meant to be a high quality writing instrument. It's basically used for or meant for low end entry level for people who are usually, like I said, students between the 50s and the 60s. And this is the Waterman BIC 298 is what this is also marketed through with BIC in a joint venture. So this little steel nib doesn't do too bad. I mean, I didn't expect anything fantastic for, number one, an $18 pen. Number two, for a student pen from the 1950s, knowing it was going to be a lower class or a lower end pen. I didn't expect great things out of the performance. But after writing just a tiny little bit, and smoothing it just a little bit, and cleaning it up, it actually has been, since I got it, writing the way I wanted it to. It actually has turned out to be a fairly flawless writer. It has performed very well. Ink flow has been great since I cleaned it up, flushed it out, and used the ultrasonic cleaner on it. So it writes fairly smoothly, especially on this Rhodia paper, and it is reliable, where it's been writing first time every time I go to use it here, since I got it working correctly. So for 18 bucks, I actually got a pretty good writing pen. And I took a student pen, and I have this one right now, this like 13.5 centimeter long pen, writing just as well as some nice expensive pens that are in my collection. So